Hello, writers, and welcome back to Spooky Writes, your channel all about writing. I'm your host, who's secretly a ghost, Kemal Onor. But you know who I am, and if this is your first time, make sure to hit the subscribe button, give this video a good like, it helps spread the channel. And so with that out of the way, let's get into today's video. Have you ever felt stuck in your writing? Have you ever been unsure of what comes next? Ever felt like you just can't write? Not today, because stars, you know. Well, today I'm giving you 5 tips plus a bonus at the end of the video on how to get your writing unstuck, on how to make that next step, on how to write that next scene. So,
it's the raven's call, the werewolf's howl, the vampire's bite. You search through the woods for safety, but all you find is... Okay, right.
it's going to be... So my first tip is going to be that you need to take a step back. So many times when we feel we can't write, it's because we're taking ourselves too seriously. We might feel that we have to get the work right and it has to be perfect the first time. And you need to understand that it's so important to understand that editing is part of the writing process, and that yes, you might not get it right the first time, but you can always change it later. Number 2 is going to be to write an exploration scene. Now, this is a scene that might not even make the final cut in your novel. It might not be included at all in the finished product, but I think this is so important to explore your characters, to put your characters in a new setting, put your characters in a place that you are familiar with. Perhaps just write a scene, just write a few pages of your character walking around your hometown. Perhaps write about your character walking up and visiting your own home. Write a scene of your character exploring your bedroom, of exploring your house. And what things does your character notice? What things stand out to your character? And this might be able to help put you in, and this might be able to help you jog some next steps for your character wherever you are in your own plot, wherever you are in your own narrative. But again, it's so important to understand that you're just writing that you're exploring. You can set your character in a completely different scene. Again, this doesn't have to be in the finished product. You don't want to be writing about, my character grew up in Boise, Idaho, and suddenly they're in Paris, France, without any explanation. And so this is a writing activity where you are just simply exploring with your character. You're taking your character, and maybe your story takes place in New York City, or it takes place in an urban environment. Maybe you just write a page or two of your character walking through the woods, and what things are they thinking about? And maybe this can help motivate you to write that next scene, and it can really help you to have a better idea of how your character reacts and what your character thinks and what things your character is worried about, what's on your character's mind. Number 3 is going to be to write out a mock interview that you are going to have with your character. Again, this might be an activity that you're using to further explore who your character is, because often if we're struggling with character-driven stories, it's because we don't know our characters well enough. But if you already know your character well enough, perhaps ask your character some uncomfortable questions, come up with some odd questions that your character doesn't face in the story, that is never something that is ever referenced, but you as an author can know, oh, my character is deathly afraid of clowns. Now, there might not be a clown anywhere in your story, but this is something that you can use in your writing, in generating the next scene, in generating more material for your story, to be able to just get back to writing. Again, this is about getting yourself unstuck, about writing that next scene, that next chapter, about asking yourself what comes next in the narrative. Now, number 4 is going to be a tip that I'm going to call increasing the temperature in the room. And what this means is that if your character is in a certain situation, if they're facing an obstacle, write the next scene where you turn the difficulty, you turn the obstacle up to 11. You increase the tension. You force your character to struggle even more so than they are in the previous scene. You're just increasing that dial a little bit more. You're increasing the temperature in the room. You're making the goal of the character harder to accomplish. And this is a great way to just write that next scene. It's a great way to just further the narrative. Maybe your character is struggling with fighting a monster, and maybe that monster suddenly gets bigger in the next scene, and how does your character react? Does your character run away? Does your character cry? Does your character scream and just, monster, big monster, and just runs off and leaves everyone to die? Or do they become stronger? Do they rise to the occasion? What do they do? Do they have to go and become stronger? Do they have to find someone? Do they have to run away for now and then come back and fight the larger monster? But you have to turn up the dial a little bit, make the conflict more. You have to increase the conflict in that next scene. So write the next scene where you're just increasing the temperature of the room. And then number 5 is going to be to free write. Now this is something that I include at the end of every single video that I've done. At the very end, I include a little writing prompt, and I think these are great ways to generate ideas, generate material. Again, it doesn't necessarily have to be included in the final story, but if you're free writing and you're just kind of exploring how your character might react in a different situation, in a different conflict, it's going to help you to know, and it's going to help you to learn more about your character. And the more that you know your character, the stronger your writing will be. The better you'll be able to know how your character would believably react to any given situation. Because so often when I feel stuck in my writing, when I feel like I just can't write today, I find that I just have to write something. It doesn't have to be anything of any real significance. It could be something as simple as a tweet or a diary entry or just a paragraph of description. I need to just write something. And what I'll find is that if I write something, I will then want to write more. And this is going to help you get back into writing that next scene. Because if you want to write that next scene, it's going to motivate you to write that next scene. And so writing something that is not that doesn't have a lot of weight to it, that doesn't have a lot depending on it. Again, writing something as simple as a tweet, something that you're not necessarily going to show to someone, like a diary entry, something that is just for you. So those were my 5 tips on how to get unstuck in your writing. And of course, your bonus. My bonus tip is going to be to read a book, let your mind wander. Often if we're forcing ourselves to write, you're taking a path of resistance, and when you take your mind off of writing, when you don't force yourself to write, find that the best path is the path of least resistance. And then I know I said I would only give you guys 1 bonus in this video, but I actually have a second bonus. Here's tip number 6.5, and that's going to be don't write. And go for a walk. Again, let your mind wander. Take your mind off of writing and just go for a walk. Let your mind just kind of fill, and your writing well will fill on its own accord. And this is one of the best ways to get back into writing is when you're just walking along, you'll get an idea and you'll go, I need to run home and I need to write. And when you need to write is the best time to write. Now there is a line between making sure you're meeting a certain that you are writing and choosing not to write, but you need to trust that your creativity will return and you will get yourself unstuck. So let me know in the comments below if any of these tips help you, and let me know if you have any tips of your own. And as always, keep it spooky. And of course, here's your writing prompt for sticking all the way through the video. The witch cackled before blank. So set your timer and start writing. Thank you so much.